Hi and welcome to Movies Suck. Let's face it, you don't get many Hollywood celebrities saying anything even vaguely along the lines of Republicans aren't so bad, or those Republicans actually seem like alright guys. Of course, that's not what's happening here. This is what Matt Damon had to say about essentially Republican voters. And it's a bit condescending. It's not bad, but it does give you an idea that these people live in a bubble, and just seeing what normal people live with and how they feel about things is obviously fairly shocking to them. Before I get started, please consider subscribing as it would really help me out, and leave a like if you like this content. Okay, on with the video. So Matt Damon says that doing research for his role in Stillwater was an eye-opening experience that challenged his preconceived notions of blue-collar America. At this year's Cannes Film Festival, Hollywood A-lister Matt Damon revealed, rather interestingly, that working on his role for Tom McCarthy's Stillwater has challenged his preconceived notions regarding rural blue-collar US citizens and their politics, which makes you wonder, what did he think before? Did he, as you expect with the rest of Hollywood, think, oh, these unintelligent, moronic fools, these MAGA idiots, they have no idea what they're talking about. They hate our country. They hate democracy. Did he think stupid, moronic things like that? I imagine he did, because that's all his friends in Hollywood would have been saying. They would have been saying really dumb things about, essentially, the people that live in the majority of the US. Remember that virtually all of the Democrats live in cities. They don't live in much of America. They live in small outposts dotted around America. The majority of Americans who are more conservative live throughout, spread out around the country. There's approximately a similar number, as we know from voting records. There seems to be a rare, fairly even split. But they live in more of America. And you wonder how it is. A person in his career, where he goes from place to place, travels around, you'd have thought at some point he would come into contact with these people, but it seems no. It seems that what they do is they start off in their LA pad or whatever, somewhere in California, among all their cronies. They travel from there to an airplane. They fly to another big city with all their cronies, and they don't seem to meet anyone in between, and that must be where this sort of thing comes from. In McCarthy's new crime drama, Damon plays the character of Bill Baker, an oil rig worker in Stillwater, Oklahoma. In order to research for the role, the Academy-winning actor spent time with Texan and Oklahoman roughnecks, experiences which he described as an eye-opening experience. He said, "Culturally, it's a very specific place, and very different from how Tom McCarthy and I grew up, so it was really fascinating." I don't know exactly how Matt Damon grew up. I've not researched him that much, and so I don't know. I assume he grew up in a city, far away from all those country bumpkins of whom he is so patronizing. So it was really fascinating, Damon explained in an interview given last Friday at the Cannes Film Festival via Breitbart. "These people were wonderful to us and really helped us. I didn't know when I first read the script how specific this culture was in Texas and Oklahoma, these roughnecks and what they do, and so it was really eye-opening for me. Yes, they're your normal, average, family people." I find it hard to understand how you can be so separated from your own people. It is really hard to figure out exactly what he seemed to be expecting. It's a weird thing for him to think that this is so strange. And you can only imagine it's because of the culture he comes from, the people that are surrounding him all the time, that makes it seem like such a culture shock when he goes out and meets the average people of America. When asked by one of the interviewers about his own thoughts and what his character's stance would have been in last year's presidential election, while Damon doesn't explicitly confirm whether or not his character would have voted for Trump, he shared that he believes this would have been the case. Oklahoma was, I think, the reddest state in the last two elections, and you talk to those roughnecks and they're always going to vote. I mean, they're in the oil business. Their livelihood depends on that, so I don't think it was even a question at all, Damon explained. "We didn't want to make it expressly political. He is who he is, and he is from where he is from, and the movie has a lot of empathy for him, and so do we." What he's saying there is obviously that he would have voted for Donald Trump. These guys would have all voted for Donald Trump. They would have voted for America. They weren't voting for internationalism. They weren't voting because they wanted socialists in power. They had been voting for America, for the American dream, for the people of America, to keep their country great. And you're not going to get that with a bunch of commies, are you? It's funny that America has been so against the commies for so long, and yet somehow the cities in America have all turned blue. When did the Democrat Party start standing for communist? When has Democrat and communist ever been synonymous words within the English language? I hope he learnt a lot from his time spent with these roughnecks. I really do. Damon also added that the reason why his character didn't vote in the movie was because of the simple fact that he was in prison, before going on to express his respect for oil rig workers and how unapologetic they are in regards to their political beliefs, as they should be. Nobody should be forced to apologize for what they believe in. Everyone should be able to talk about these things without being cancelled, without being attacked. If those sorts of things happen to you, you know you're not living in a truly free country anymore. In other news, along a similar subject, David Harbour has come out as supporting socialism. It's kind of hard to say for definite, since he actually does seem to understand some of the implications of socialism, or communism, basically the same thing. They will say, no, it's not, but it basically is. Anyway, so David Harbour did one of the craziest things you could possibly imagine and actually married Lily Allen. A lot of my American viewers out there are thinking to themselves, who the hell is Lily Allen? Well, you may wonder that. She's a left-wing nutjob in the UK. She is supposedly an actor, singer. She sang some really terrible songs and is, I guess, mildly famous. Mostly famous these days for saying psychotic things on Twitter and making very dumb statements about the state of politics in the UK.
I apologise on behalf of my country. I'm sorry for what we've put you through. I can't.
Guys, I just watched the Labour manifesto and I think it's the best manifesto I've ever seen.
She's nutty. She's obviously a communist or a communist sympathizer. Obviously, she'll say, I'm a socialist. That's communist. Who are they trying to fool? Absolute nonsense. Which kind of makes sense that David Harbour would say some stuff that's kind of in tune with communism if he's actually married her. And I still find that hard to believe. I mean, he seems like a normal kind of guy. He seems like a nice enough guy. And yet he does say some, I won't say stupid things here. I mean, yes, somewhat stupid. But they're not horrible things that he says here. Let me read and you'll see what I mean. But he is married to Lily Allen, and that is almost completely unforgivable. The woman is a complete nut job. Anyway, it was not just the bulking up that he enjoyed about his character. He also has a degree of sympathy for the politics of. This was an interview about Black Widow, basically, and a few other bits and bobs. This is actually a fairly good interview. You learn a little bit about his past and stuff, but the bit we're interested in is this bit. So, he also has a degree of sympathy for the politics of the Red Guardian, a man so dedicated to the spread of communism that he has Karl and Marx tattooed on his knuckles. I don't know that there's anyone who could disagree with socialist ideology, says Harbour. Does he know anything about socialist ideology? And in fact, he actually does seem to know something about socialist ideology. I believe he's talking about a kind of Star Trek socialism, rather than the actual socialism that we have on the planet. He's talking about an idealized socialism that doesn't exist anywhere on this planet, and I doubt could exist anywhere at all, certainly not until we're at an extraordinarily high technological level. He says, if you work at Starbucks and you make the coffee, then you should own it. You're the one making the coffee. No, you're not. Because someone grew that coffee. Someone harvested that coffee. Someone transported that coffee. Someone designed the machines that make the coffee. If you're just a person who puts some beans inside a machine and then adds a bit of water, then waits for it to finish making that crazy noise that coffee machines make, and then gives someone a cup, no, you don't necessarily own the coffee. It makes absolutely no sense, and he obviously didn't think about what he was saying at the time, because obviously that sentence is just, it compounds the stupidity of generations in one line. It's just so dumb. But anyway, as he says, this is what makes me think that he does know something about what he's talking about. He says, but the fact is that the implementation of these things has led to some of the deepest fascism in our society. So people assume that communism means fascism to a certain degree, and that's a terrible thing. He's absolutely right. Communism and fascism are almost the same thing. They're not quite the same thing, but they are two sides of the same coin. They're the coin's edge apart from being the same thing. And he does actually give the impression that he has an idea of what he's talking about here. After that first statement, which was just hilariously stupid to levels that are hard to comprehend when you have working brain cells. But I assume he wasn't really thinking about the statement, and that's why he came out with that absolute dumbass nonsense. But as we read a bit further on, Harbour's own politics are a little less severe than his characters, though he is still keen for change. He said, "The idea of a kindergarten-type society where we share things is my ideal society, as opposed to this world where we're hunting and killing and destroying for our own personal hoarding, our own personal greed." I don't know who's hunting, killing, and destroying as such, but you can understand where he's coming from there. It would be nice if we lived in utopia, wouldn't it? We'd all love to live in a utopia where everyone has everything they want, everyone's all happy, and Star Trek. He's talking about Star Trek. Every time this sort of thing has been tried on planet Earth, the place we live, in history, which, okay, last 100 or so years, it turned out extremely badly. Communism is only really good at one thing, and that's murdering people, starving them to death, forcing them to eat their children. This is what communism is successful at doing. So it's nice that he feels that way, that he would love for everyone to be happy. And from what I've read, what he really wants is just for everybody to be happy and content. That appears to be what he really wants. He thinks that there is a way to get there through socialism and communism. And hey, maybe he's right, maybe it's possible, but not in the kind of society we have at the minute, not with our level of technological development. He's talking about something far in the future where you just stand next to a machine and it makes you a car. It makes you the best possible car you could ever have. And everybody stands next to a machine. They all get the best possible car they could ever have. They stand next to another machine. They tell it what food they want. It gives them exactly what food they want. Everyone has genetically perfect girlfriends or husbands. And this is what he's talking about really here, because obviously when you follow that line of logic, you have to get to that sort of thing in the far future. As if we follow this line of logic at present, then yeah, it's a shit show. It's a complete shit show. You're really just talking about murdering millions, maybe billions of people if you attempt to implement this sort of thing worldwide the way things are now. And I know that that's not what he wants, but that's what he's talking about here with this stupid comment. But nevertheless, I do hope that everybody can be happy and content, even the psychotic left-wing nutjobs. But I'm not quite sure what happy and content means for them. It's probably something very similar to what happy and content meant for the KKK. Yeah, worrying. Very worrying. Anyway, that's enough for today. I hope you guys have a great night or great day. This is Movie Sucks signing out. Leave a like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.